During Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's visit to Warsaw, not only security issues were raised in the context of the war in Ukraine and the upcoming NATO summit in Vilnius. The Prime Ministers of Poland and Italy discussed the European Union's migration policy and the defence of the community's external borders. I would like to say that I understand Italy's stance to have the exterior EU borders strongly protected. This is also Poland's stance. This external dimension of illegal immigration is a key one. Our position is substantially the same. We want to stop illegal immigration. As long as Europe thinks about solving the problem by discussing how to handle illegal migration when it arrives on European ground, we will never find a real solution, because the interests of our nations, even simply for geographic reasons, are different interests. The problem of illegal migrants from Asia and Africa emerged in Europe almost 10 years ago. In 2015, the migration wave peaked. Tens or even hundreds of thousands of people from the Middle East and Africa tried to enter France and Germany illegally. When it turned out that the vast majority were not refugees but unskilled immigrants seeking a better life, it was decided to forcibly relocate these people to the rest of the European Union. In 2017, Donald Tusk, while serving as President of the European Council, threatened the Polish government with consequences for not accepting migrants. He has certain arguments. I am able to understand them, but this will inevitably involve certain consequences. These are the rules in Europe. Today, Donald Tusk changed his mind 180 degrees. For the purpose of the election campaign, he suddenly became an opponent of forced relocation of migrants. This is 2022, more than 135,000. You know that Law and Justice issued more residence permits than France and Germany combined. The opposition leader is misrepresenting and manipulating the truth, Law and Justice politicians say. A residence permit is one of the steps in the process of issuing a visa that allows legal work in Poland. Ultimately, a visa is granted to a dozen% of applicants. 16,000 people from these African countries. And these are actually verified, vetted people who come legally. Donald Tusk accused the Law and Justice Party of wanting to allow up to 400,000 immigrants to stay through an ordinance. However, the former Prime Minister is manipulating the facts. In fact, it was a decree of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs which assumed that the number of visa applicants would be at least 400,000 per year, which does not mean that so many people would come to Poland. The authors of the project justified it by the growing interest in obtaining a visa for the Polish labour market. However, work on the project has been put on hold for the time being. This is a manipulation because these numbers do not apply to people who come to Poland. It is being said that the statistics of work permits for legal labour immigrants were low at the time when the Civic Platform was in power, and they are high at the time when Law and Justice is in power. Mr. Donald Tusk, they were low when you were in power because before there was no work and there was no need for it. And today, in connection with the fact that there is a lot of work and the economy is growing, there is a need for more hands to work. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Development and Technology, Piotr Uściński, points out that there is not and will not be government approval for forced relocation of migrants. Moving people, forcing them to stay where they are, keeping an eye on them in camps so that they don't accidentally return to another country. This is not humane treatment, and we Poles will never agree to it. I don't know at all why such things are considered in Europe. It is worth recalling that the Civic Platform criticised the construction of a barrier on the border with Belarus, despite the fact that the crisis on Poland's eastern borders was caused by Belarusian and Russian security services. The change of stance on migrants surprised even the media that favour the opposition. PO leader scares people with Muslims and regains control of borders. Donald Tusk or Donald Trump already? Human rights activists and defenders do not leave a dry thread on Tusk. Disgusting and premeditated political gamesmanship, cynicism and following dead bodies to their goals, and lack of elementary knowledge about migration and refugees are just a few of the long list of accusations. At the invitation of Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, consultations of parliamentary circles and clubs on forced relocation of migrants and the EU migration package will begin tomorrow before noon. The recent riots in France have shown European societies what the mass and uncontrolled admission of immigrants can lead to. According to preliminary estimates, the losses amount to €1 billion. The Polish government's position is that the decision on whether to accept migrants should be made by Poles in a referendum. According to some commentators, Donald Tusk has received permission from the European People's Party to be able to criticise the European Union's migration policy, but only for the duration of the parliamentary elections in Poland. If this formation gained power, it would follow the instructions of Berlin, and Brussels for that matter,